Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Brandon Cobb, and today I've got Leigh Brown on the show. She's a 26-year veteran real estate broker and owner. She's nationally recognized speaker. She's known for reconnecting agents to the heart of the business. She's got experience across multiple market cycles since the 26-year veteran experience. She's the founder of One Community Real Estate and leader of a Grassroots disaster relief Patriot Relief. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. She brings her credibility, service, and purpose to re energize professionals who still service the American dream. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Brandon. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm excited because we were just having a really, really good conversation. And I'm excited to continue it. You've done a whole lot of things, and I know you've really been connected, recently to like your nonprofit. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
That actually happened completely by accident because, of course, nobody expects a hurricane in the mountains of North Carolina and it hit East Tennessee and Southwest Virginia and the upstate of South Carolina. I mean, it just devastated a whole area. And I live about 2 hours away from the heart of where the floodwaters were. They were, of course, 28 feet above flood stage, cell towers down, roads gone, bridges gone, houses gone, just craziness. And generally, after a hurricane hits the North Carolina coast, which is every couple of years, I'll reach out to my client base in real estate and we'll gather up supplies and go do a delivery because we love being helpful. It's just one of those things I think all humans feel like a call to do something. So I've been the one that says, let's do something together. Well, this time when we put out the call, it was more than we expected, and we wound up with a semi-trailer full of supplies, wound up with a couple pallets of chainsaws, and then as we were taking it to the mountains, we were finding we had to go around FEMA roadblocks because they were blocking supplies coming in under the guise of safety, but they didn't have any supplies. So we had to go around the authorities to get to the people who needed water and diapers and food and batteries and propane and gasoline and all these other really important essentials to stay alive. And it went from a supply run to a movement. And I had dollars that came in from all over the country and even from overseas. I had volunteers that came up out of nowhere to drive trucks and trailers to get to the people because the geographic area impacted was as big as Massachusetts. I mean, it wasn't just a spot, it was a huge swath of geography, and the government failed. I mean, the state government failed, the federal government failed, and I couldn't let go of it. It was not just a one and done, let's do something and check it off the list. I honestly feel like I got called into that and we never stopped serving. So today, a year and a half later, we're still doing house repairs. We're still replacing housing. In fact, we're recording this the first week of March. Just a couple of days ago, we awarded a house to an 80-year-old lady. And Brandon, she's been living in a storage shed since the storm in September of 2024 with her three dogs. And she did not get help from the federal government. She did not get help from the state government, and she was turned down by some other nonprofits who shall remain nameless because she didn't fit their criteria. So I was introduced to her through somebody who said, can you guys help her? And we looked at the case and said, 80 years old, no money, no income, three dogs, has land. The neighbors agreed to give her an easement for her septic drain field. That's how kind those neighbors were. And for those of y'all that don't understand, that means they're willing to let her shit flow into their lot so
Yeah.
that she can come home to her land. The well was still viable, which was craziness because the house didn't survive, but the well did. So of course we told her yes. And so right now we're fundraising to get her into a small house, and she won't say small house. She's looking for maybe, 700, 800 square feet. She is not looking for a mansion. She is not looking for anything fancy, but she wants to be on her own dirt. And frankly, that's why I can't let go of the work that I've done in the mountains because people get really emotionally and physically connected to the land that is theirs. And I don't know that the transient Americans that we have today, where people pick up and pull up roots and they move all over the country, I think we've lost a little of that emotional connection, but I see it in the mountains where you have generational homeowners, and I will do anything I can to help somebody stay in the home that they want on the land that's theirs and not get moved somewhere simply because of a storm they didn't create. Very long answer to your question, but we went from providing chainsaws and water to providing housing, and we've been just the delighted along the way by how many churches and volunteer groups have decided to pitch in with us to help the people that we've been introduced to and who've donated dollars from, $5 from this person to $380,000 from this person. And every dollar matters because every one of our neighbors matters.
Yeah. Well, so what do you feel like pulled you in that direction? You said like there was a calling to do it. It didn't start out as a nonprofit. It was like, oh my gosh, we got a storm. People need help. Like, why do you feel like you got called to do that over many other things?
Oh, God told me to do it. I mean, you can call it whatever you want to call it. That is a direct calling from the Lord. And as it turns out, when you hear his voice really, really loud, you
Yeah.
just as well not ignore it. And so I just rolled into it. And luckily for me, my husband was willing to roll along too. And so was my real estate team and all these clients and people, strangers decided to roll with me because this was never a Lee Brown project. This was a whole bunch of us cared very intently about other people thing. And I kind of feel like a wave washed over my head, Brandon, and I'm just being swept along with it. And I'll do whatever he wants me to do.
In my experience, I've looked at a lot of things in life, and when it comes to charitable giving, there's a few lessons that I've learned. One is to do something that you actually enjoy doing. I found when I was like cutting checks and doing that, yeah, you feel kind of good, but it didn't actually bring me joy and
Yes.
inspire me. And there's certain things that bring me joy and certain things that don't. And so I was paying attention to that, number one. The second thing that it has to do is it has to be perpetual. So it's got to be like a gift that gives on giving. And so one of the things I do every single Thanksgiving is there's this little bikes or bus charity that is super cool, and all the kids are getting bikes for Christmas. It's their first bike, and I remember my first bike. It was a black, I don't know if it was Hot Wheels or whatever the brand was, but it had like it was black and it had the flames on the side of it. Man, I had so much freaking fun with that bike. And so it was perpetual. So it kept giving. So you give the gift, and man, I don't even know how long I read that bike for. So that was like the second rule. The third is it's got to deliver at least 10 times the value for every dollar. So if I'm investing a dollar in it, it's got to be able to at least deliver, $10 worth of value, which, if you pay, I don't know, 60, $70 for a little bike, that's how much you can get them from Walmart. I'm getting a lot more than $600, $700 worth of value as that kid rides that bike for a couple of years. And then the fourth is to do it with those that I love. And so I first started doing this by myself. And then every year I bring somebody new to go and do it. And I've been trying to create like a big, group that's kind of every year we show up and all go and buy the bikes together and we wheel them down. It's kind of fun. And so I've kind of got some like, rules that I live by when it comes to like the whole charitable giving thing. Like, do you have anything similar to something like that like this particular calling kind of like checked all the boxes?
I hadn't ever looked at it as methodically as you have and probably should, but I tend to fly by the seat of my pants a lot. I'll just admit that. But one of the things that I found is at the very beginning of the process when the relief effort was just life and death necessary, I had made some videos that went viral and I've got strangers sending me money and I'm like, you watched a video on TikTok. Why are you sending me money? You people are nuts. You don't know me. What are you doing? I know I'm trustworthy and honorable. I'm not a scam artist, but y'all are, what are you doing? So I would ask people, like, why? Why are you sending it to me and not to the Red Cross and not to Samaritan's Purse and not over here and not over there? And they said, they're too big. We don't know where the money goes. We think it goes to causes that don't have our same values and that it goes into overhead. And we just feel like we can trust you. And I was like, well, you can, and I'll be very good. I've got receipts. I'll be honest with your money. But I think that there's it's kind of like how I do business. I love doing business with tiny companies. I love micro entrepreneurs. I will buy coffee from somebody who has started a coffee bar in their house with the dream of having a push cart who's never probably going to have a brick and mortar location, but I love supporting micro business. And it's the same way in nonprofit world because you're very close to the people you serve. And it's not that the Red Cross is inherently bad or that Samaritan's Purse is bad. They've gotten to their size for lots of good reasons, but when you get to that size, a big proportion of your dollars do go to overhead by the nature of size of the beast. And the American people, I really feel, are drawn to the underdog story, which means they're also drawn to the underdog organization that is in hand-to-hand combat with what needs to be taken care of. So when I'm donating, I donate as locally as I can. I eat as locally as I can. I buy from anybody I can, and I give that way too. And so when I look at this in the mountains, what's interesting is that my donors distrusted the big charitable organizations. The people that we have
Yeah.
served, they don't trust the big organizations either, and they don't trust the government because they've had no reason to trust them. These are people who are in the mountains. They're a long way away from the state capital. They've lived off the grid, some of them. They haven't, nobody's cared about them, let's be honest. I mean, a lot of these mountain communities have been made fun of. You call them hillbillies and you call them rednecks and white trash, and they get called all these terrible names. Who are you to judge? Somebody lives where they live and has a community that they love. Shut up about it. And their distrust was so high that for me to serve anybody, including the lady that we just awarded a house to, I don't have them calling me direct. Hey, Lee Brown, I need some help. It's a friend of a friend of a friend calls me. So my friend Larry texts me and says, Hey, I got a friend who needs help. He's not going to ask anybody. And can you help him? Of course, I can help him. Get me a list and we can figure out how to serve him so that he retains his dignity, he retains his honor, and he gets the things that he needs so that he can keep his life going because he's still capable. He just happened to need one little boost one time. So when I'm giving, oh, I look for that. Like I love Habitat for Humanity for that reason because Habitat's huge, but it is very micro in the way that it operates in these different counties and municipalities. And you look at their dollars, I think 95% of the dollars go to the mission. And same thing with my organization. I think we're at 96% of our dollars go to the mission because we're very skinny. If I see anybody that's spending more than 10% of my dollars, they don't get them because what are those dollars doing? So to go back to your 10 for 1 rule, if the dollar is going to have a $10 expansion effect, that's not going to work if seven of those dollars are siphoned off from marketing and salaries and buildings. It just can't happen.
Yeah. Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. It's like, how do you prevent this from becoming political and diluted are the two words I would use here. Let me kind of explain diluted in the sense that some of those larger charity organizations, you donate $100 and like $15 makes it to the people they're actually serving because they've built this big behemoth that has like overhead. And so I would think of running a charity, kind of like running a business. You need income coming in. Well, those are donations, right? It's the revenue generating task. And then you've got the cost to actually operate the charity. Like you need to pay people to come, especially if you want to do big things, you know what I mean? Like you're going to have to build something, but it gets diluted. And you just alluded to what a lot of people have an issue with, which is the dollars not making their way to the people that they actually serve. So that's that side. And then there's the political thing where it's like, well, they don't fit the buy box, but oh my God, they need help. So what's your plan to navigate that as you go forward with this?
We're actually looking at the habitat model as the kind that can be replicated in a sense, not with the Habitat International, which if you give to Habitat International, your dollars do get filtered out into overhead. But if you give to your local Habitat for Humanity, those dollars generally are it's very much going to the mission at hand. So just you got to look at the gold star status of any organization. I'll just put that out there. If you're at the grocery store and they're asking you to round up, look up the organization they want you to round up to and see if it's one of these siphons the money or the one that distributes the money. It's pretty easy for you to do that. And I'm the person, because I'm a woman of a certain age, I'm sitting here quizzing these high school cashiers about the organizations they want me to round up to because I want them to learn too. But when Patriot Relief expands, and we're working on that right now, we will have Patriot Relief chapters in every state so that there can be an immediate grassroots response to the supplies needed after disaster happens. with the people who are on the ground who want to help. Because one of the things we discovered is that in addition to the dollars that are needed and the supplies that are needed, there is this great desire for people to roll their sleeves up and do something. And they don't have that opportunity when all they can do is write a check. And you mentioned that before. It's good to write a check and it feels good for a moment and then it fades. But so many people say, I want to give money, but I want to drive a truck. I want to hand stuff out. I want to do. And that's how Samaritan's Purse built their model, was on people volunteering and doing. And we want to be able to be a hybrid organization that has supplies and has the doing, but is hyper localized, run by local people who what they get from the Patriot Relief founders will be some structure, and then we can figure out how to distribute dollars so that it stays skinny. It has to stay skinny to work in my eyes, but it also has to stay skinny to be nimble, because you mentioned the politics of anything, and what a shame that politics has infected literally everything going on in the world. Well, I am an unashamed conservative. I'm also an unashamed conservative who's willing to call out the elected conservatives and the elected on the other side of the aisle. If you are not doing what you said you would do, then shame on you. If you're doing what you said you would do and I don't agree with it, all right, fine. I disagree with you. I can vote against you, but you didn't actually violate your own principles. I think if you're a political person, you need to learn how to understand that nuance right there. But our systems have failed, and they have failed because the system has become its own client, and the people don't yet see all the time that they're disconnected from the system. We saw it in Western North Carolina when we had people who weren't served because of the election sign in their yard in 2024. That was a real thing, that there were people, if they had a Trump sign in their yard, FEMA did not serve them. And those of us that were doing relief work on the ground were like, what? This is stupid. We didn't ask one soul. Don't care who you're voting for. Don't care how you're registered. You need something. Let's talk and let's figure you out. And oh, by the way, you need a hug. I'm going to hug you. I don't care what you look like, what language you speak, who you're sleeping with. I don't care. You need help. We're going to help because we help our neighbors. And you start realizing that it's the way our government was intended to run by our founding fathers. This is America 250. This country was designed to be of the people, and we've turned back into some kind of a system that has elites who talk about the people but don't want to mix with them. Patriot Relief, if it's going to stay true to its core, will never not hug somebody who's in need, because they need that as much as more. They need money and supplies. They need to be seen and heard and treated like a human being. I will tell you, like during disaster relief, and maybe it's because I'm coming from a real estate life, and in real estate, it's always about the relationship. And if somebody's neck is getting tense, I know I need to back off of the real estate talk and find out what's happening in their life so that I can serve. Because I can't serve until I know a little about their story. And that allows me to serve with excellence. And I don't want to serve with mediocrity. I want to serve with excellence. So I take that into the mountains of North Carolina. And I'm talking to somebody who, he lost his wife. He watched their house float away in the floodwaters with his wife in it. He lost his wife. He's sobbing. I'm sobbing with him. We stopped talking about what he needs for a minute so I could hug him and pray with him. And then because he feels bad for making me cry, but I'm a Dolly Parton believer who says nobody cries alone in my presence. And so we're feeling this together because he needs to grieve. And he showed me the video. He showed me the video, Brandon, of their house washed away with his wife in it, and he couldn't get to her because the waters had come up so high. And then he tells me, he's like, oh, but it's okay. And I'm like, how can you tell me it's okay? Holy smokes. Who are you, dude? And he's like, because I'm going to be a grandfather. My son and his wife are expecting. And so he's grieving simultaneously. He's got this joy of the next life. And a good organization will never lose those moments. And the moments come from back to how you evaluate your charitable things. It's that passion for service. And I've never done mission work before. I'd never done disaster relief work before. I learned all of this on the fly, a lot of it with advice from friends in Mississippi who'd gone through Katrina and friends in Florida who go through this pretty much every year telling me, here's what you're going to encounter, here's how to prepare for this, here's how to do this. So much counsel from people I'd met through the real estate world so that I could serve people I was meeting in disaster relief world. And I can't look at anything the same way. I refuse to look at anything the same way because I have a different level of skepticism for what my tax dollars are doing. I have a different level of skepticism for some of the nonprofits that are out there. And I have a newfound belief in the goodness of strangers who are willing to send $20 to this lady they saw on TikTok, trusting that I'm going to use it for somebody else's good. And I'm proud to say we've done that, and everybody on my team has done that. And it just simultaneously makes you feel more hopeful and a little more cynical at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean that's a tough thing to do. It's like I don't know that I could ever work as a, well, what is it, like a heart surgeon or something like that, knowing you're gonna lose people who work in a profession where they have to deal with death a lot, police detectives and stuff like that. I mean, it is tough to be able to you're just exposed to like the some of the worst things that you experience constantly in
Right.
life where you almost become kind of numb to it because you have to, right? You can't let it just affect you emotionally to the point where you can't continue to do your work. Obviously, it's going to affect you emotionally a little bit, but you kind of have to become a little bit numb to it in order to be able to operate it successfully. What would you say is the like how do you make the decision? Because I've struggled with this to start your own charity and get up and running versus identify another charity that kind of already has things built and say, what, I'm gonna help fund that charity. There's a charity here that we really like. My partner, he's a veteran, and so we were doing a lot of with veterans, and we are like, do we start our own thing where we go and try to find homeless vets and round them up and do all that? And we realized there was Matthew 25, which is a chapter here that takes in homeless men and gives them a free place to stay, curfew, helps them get a job, free food, but like you have to stay clean off drugs, you have to keep a job. Like they got a little vending machine there where they come and deposit their money that they made, and it's the first thing from like taking them from homeless to this to kind of help them integrate back into society. And so like what we've been doing with our developments, like the ones we're doing this year, is like we're rolling out something where like we're the next stepping stone for them. So it's like they go to Matthew 25, they can't stay there forever, and so they need an apartment or like a car. And so what we'll do in our capital raises for our developments is we'll build that in. We're like, hey, we're working with the local chapter. 25,000 of the profits is going to go to Matthew 25, and like it's going to help uh three homeless veterans get rent for 6 months and get like a used car. It's kind of helped them do so stuff like that. So we're like, okay, it makes more sense for us to do what we're good at, which is do development, raise money, and funnel something into something that we get joy from that is kind of aligned with some of our culture and background. So like how do you decide doing your own thing versus and just trying to fund somebody else that's kind of already doing the thing that you're wanting to do?
I guess it just depends on what the ultimate vision is for what you want to do. And what I was getting from feedback, because remember, I had zero intention of doing this, zero intention of doing anything beyond collecting up some water and some diapers and running it to the mountains and checking the box. And so it turns into something bigger. And when I hear from churches that say, we want to volunteer, can we come do some repairs? Can we do some projects? Because they're non-denominational or maybe they're Pentecostal holiness and they don't have a outlet for that like the Baptists do. So the Southern Baptists, of course, have an organization used to be called the Baptist Men, but because 2026, they're now the Baptist on mission, and they already have a plan and a structure. But if you're not part of that denomination, you can't really toss in with them. And the Presbyterians don't do as much mission work as they used to do, but they still have their structure for their churches, which leaves this huge constellation of people who have a heart for giving, a biblical directive to do things, and they're looking for a pathway to follow. So we were able to provide that pathway. Now, could they go to Samaritan's Purse? Sure, but then Samaritan's Purse has some rules where if the recipient has a felony or a misdemeanor, they can't be served by Samaritan's Purse. I didn't know that until I got into the middle of disaster relief. And I understand the belief of general counsel about the safety of the volunteers, and they've got all these risk reduction policies in place. But again, that goes to their size. And as an organization, okay, so if we build one, we could serve somebody who's got that kind of a record because they're still our neighbors. Okay, so we can still serve them. We can bring in some churches. And then we had people who they just they if they don't trust anybody else, why wouldn't I create a vehicle that they do trust? So I do stay up late at night focusing on it. What are we doing? Are we doing it the right way? Are we tracking our stuff effectively? And I did make my first hire in February of an executive director because, as it turns out, I really can't do all things by myself. And so I hired this wonderful man, and he's got a beautiful sense of organization that is not really my strength. And he's building things out. As I dump it out of my head, he builds it into structure so that we can scale. And when I've sent him into conversations and we've gone together, he just brings a different perspective and he's very calm, whereas I'm very energetic and a little bit out of my skin a lot of the times, and he balances that out. So I realized that there's a space for this. And as we are only a year and a half old, but we've gone through our first 990 process, we've done our audits, we've done all the things the right way because we see a future for this kind of an organization. If there had been somebody else out there doing exactly what we do, I might be having a different answer for you. But as it is now, there's two organizations that we may be bringing in under our umbrella because they have some gaps in offering that they might be better served if they let us fill those gaps while they fill some other specialties and we create something entirely different under our umbrella. So we're probably going to be the one that absorbs other groups at this point. And I think it's a depends on the place that you're in, depends on the moment that you're in, and depends on who surrounds you. I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it again. This is not a Leigh Brown thing. I'm the face of it, I'm the tip of the spear. I started the whole mess, but by myself, this wouldn't be a conversation we'd be happening. It happens because thousands of people said they would pitch in with me, and they bring the great ideas and perspective to the table, and it allows us to build the plane while we're flying it because it's serving really well. And again, maybe it's because I'm from real estate, but real estate's the same way. And when you're going to sell somebody's house, you are flying the airplane while you build it because you don't know what the market's going to do. Interest rates go up and down, and then buyer demand goes up and down, and the jobs market moves, and then the neighbor lists their house, they're in a divorce, and so they undercut, and you're like, crap, now we're in a price war. Or the neighbor goes on the market and they get multiple offers, and suddenly your list price is wrong. And you have to shift and pivot all the time, client by client on the real estate side. And as a broker, same thing with my agents. Every agent does the business differently. And I love that about real estate. I have to pivot with them. And so I pivot in the nonprofit space too. And I guess it's just the reason I'm in all these different fields is because they're different every day when you wake up. And it's no different than development. You see the raw land, you have one idea in your head, then you go to planning and zoning and they give you their inputs, and suddenly your
Yeah.
idea starts to shift a little bit. And you're like, I'm still going to look for the best possible outcome. And then by the time it's all finished, you can look back and say, that input might have been all right because this came out fantastic. Good job, us. And it's learning how to adapt and thrive no matter what's thrown at you.
Leigh, this has been a phenomenal conversation. Thank you for everything that you do with the whole charity organizations and give us the name of your charity one more time, how people can find you, and then how they can donate if they want to get involved.
Oh, well, we are patriotrelief.org, and
Patriot
we
Relief.
are a 501c3. And so all donations are tax deductible to the extent allowed by law. So you can check us out at patriotrelief.org. And if your church or group are looking for a summer retreat project and you'd like to come pitch in on somebody's home, reach out because we would love to roll up your sleeves and put you to work. Even if you're unskilled, we can let you do landscaping.
All right. Hey, you got it. So go get involved with Patriot Relief. Go check it out. Very cool stuff that Leigh's doing here. Thanks for coming on and sharing today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me on the show, and I look forward to learning more about your land development classes too. And I will direct everybody over to my podcast to hear more about Brandon's side of things because we had two conversations for you to enjoy.
Yeah, no, we do. And what's the name of your podcast? I think it's Real Talk with Leigh
It's
Brown. Is that right?
Real Talk with Leigh Brown, and I'll make sure the link to this show is on my show, and I'll give you the link. So, audience, you can tell us if you enjoyed both of them, and make sure that you put something in the comments here about how much you love Brandon's show, and if you took his classes, you should comment and tell him if he needs to fix anything or if they're good just the way they are.
Yes, guys. And if you know somebody that's interested and passionate about this kind of stuff that, may want to get involved, share this episode with somebody that needs to hear it. And we will see you guys next time. Thanks for coming on the show.